Well, we're joined now by Fred Fleitz, who is a former chief of staff at U.S. National Security Council under President Trump. He joins us from Washington, D.C. Mr. Fleitz, thank you very much indeed for joining us. Always a pleasure having you on the program. About 2,000 people, including security personnel, are now believed to have been killed in protests in Iran. In fact, that's according to one Iranian official. And President Trump did warn that killing protesters would prompt action from his administration. And he said a few days ago the US was locked and loaded. Is it therefore a matter of time before the US does something in Iran?
What's happening in Iran is horrific, as this brutal, fanatical regime is killing its people. And I think more than 2,000 have been killed. These protests are changing Iran. Whether this round of protests succeeds in bringing down this regime or not, the people will never forget what is being done to it by this regime. This will begin a massive movement for change, for democracy. I hope this current round succeeds. And I think there's a lot the United States and the world can do to help. First of all leaders around the world have to speak out in support of the people of Iran who are protesting for freedom and against this fanatical, corrupt regime. I think there has to be efforts to break relations, expel diplomats, strong economic sanctions, cyber warfare, and maybe there'll be a role for military action. Perhaps President Trump will decide to take out the IRGC facilities. These special forces are being used to fire live ammunition at innocent Iranians, old people, children, women who are protesting for freedom. Maybe military facilities where the soldiers are being used to attack the people. I also think we need financial incentives to say to Iranian bureaucrats and military leaders, defect. Leave your country, don't kill your people. We can give you a future outside of the country. Do something principled. Choose not to shoot at your fellow Iranians. I think these are strong messages that have to be sent right now.
Right. And, today, President Trump's national security team meeting to discuss the options. You've listed a couple of them there, some military, some hybrid, some non-military. President Trump says there are some very strong options on the table. I mean, how likely do you think it is that the US will go down this road of quote, very strong options?
I think there's going to be fairly strong measures. I don't know what President Trump is planning. He has already announced 25% sanctions on any nation that does business with Iran. Another effort that might be taken is intercepting ships from nations such as China and North Korea and Russia that may be sending small arms to Iran that the regime would use to kill protesters. I'm sure there's a whole long list of other measures that the regime the Trump administration may take, but I don't know what the president has in mind.
Okay, so in terms of what military options might look like, I mean, you did talk about going after the Revolutionary Guard, some of its facilities. We have, of course, seen only 6 or so months ago the Trump administration targeting Iran's nuclear plan. I don't know what's left of it. I mean, what are your thoughts? Do you think that could be another a target that gets revisited, shall we say?
I think that the next target by the U.S. and Israel, if they decide to go after Iran's WMD facilities, will be missiles. I believe that Iran still has a missile capability, especially small and medium range missiles. And Israel's concerned about that they could be used against Israel. And Israel's been saying this for several months, that Iran is rebuilding its missile capability. It could be used against Israeli and American targets. So that may be something that Trump's thinking of hitting.
Right. I mean, 2026 got off to a pretty dramatic start, as we all know. As we watch those scenes unfolding in Caracas, and Venezuela's leader, Nicolas Maduro, is now in US detention. I mean, that was a highly successful and carefully planned military operation. And I'm wondering whether you think that perhaps has fueled the appetite for the use of military force in places and in situations where perhaps there wasn't the appetite before. Do you think there's any argument to be made there?
Well, the action that President Trump took to capture Maduro reflects his broader strategy to protect the U.S. homeland, particularly the U.S. southern border, from flows of illegal migrants and criminal gangs and drugs. And to stop these inflows, he has to restore American leadership in the Western Hemisphere. Venezuela was disrupting stability in the region. We know a number of states, Iran, China, and Russia, were establishing a presence in Venezuela that they were using to destabilize the region against American interests. I don't think this means that the president's planning on using military force more broadly, but I do think he decided, and this is in the national security strategy, to have a very aggressive approach to stop penetrations of our southern border by, as I said, criminals and drugs and illegal migrants, and to get to the source of this instability is in Central and South America, especially in Venezuela.
Right. Well, at the time, I remember, it was only 10 days ago, people were saying that perhaps one of the target audiences of those events in Venezuela were, in fact, the Iranians. And I just wanted to, just going back to Iran, I wanted to ask you what you make of the people putting forward the argument that perhaps military action in Iran would have the reverse effect of what's desired here and get people rallying around the flag. I mean, do you think that is a real risk, and how do you mitigate it?
I think that would ordinarily be a risk, but I believe that the public opposition to the Iranian regime is so severe. The Iranian people know that demonstrators are being shot in the streets. There soon will be executions of Iranians. I believe the vast majority of the Iranian people would welcome U.S. intervention and supporting them in their fight for freedom.
Okay, and when it comes to what President Trump does next, I mean, there are, of course, there are reports, and I think even the president himself has suggested that meetings could take place with Iranian officials. I know the president is also in touch with some on the opposition in Iran. His vice president, J.D. Vance, seems to be more erring towards the side of negotiation and less towards the side of military action. And I'm wondering whether you're seeing a unanimous approach by the Trump administration, or are there different voices calling for different paths to follow on this one?
I'm not part of those internal deliberations, but I can tell you that Vice President Vance is a loyal member of President Trump's team. I think there could be negotiations. I know the Iranians want them. They want to buy time. They want to prevent President Trump from taking any military action, putting any other pressure on the regime. And if those talks are held, the first thing that Trump's representatives will say, you have to agree to stop using force against your people, against the demonstrators. If Iran won't agree to that, there's not going to be any agreement.
Do you think there are any splits in the regime in Iran? I mean, do you think there's anything obvious emerging in terms of, of course, you've got the clerical leadership. You also have a president who's not a clerical figure. There's, of course, the military. I mean, are there any identifiable splits that could be exploited?
I don't know what the splits are, but I think they're coming. And that's because the Iranian currency is currently worth zero. That means that the government won't be able to pay security forces. It won't be able to pay bureaucrats. Regional leaders will have to set out on their own. The government can't stay together if it can't pay government officers, government bureaucrats, members of the military. If they don't have money to feed their people, the government will collapse. If this current situation continues, if Iran's currency is valueless, the regime can't survive.
It's quite interesting when you hear what the officials in Tehran are saying in public. They sound really defiant. They say, we've got this totally under control. And they sound like they wouldn't back down under any circumstances. And yet we're being told that there are back channels at work. Negotiations are potentially taking place with Washington. I mean, how do you reconcile these two very different faces of the regime in Iran?
Well, let's first start out by saying that the Iranian foreign minister and his family are in Lebanon. They're hiding. They know, he knows what's coming. He's shielding his family from what could be a collapse of the regime. And there are reports that Iranian leaders are seeking passports or places to flee in other countries, especially in France. I think some of them will probably seek refuge in Russia if the government falls. We can see the possible beginnings of the fall of this regime. I hope it comes quickly in this round of protests. unfortunately, we know from history that efforts to bring down this type of dictatorship can take time, and the regime will be stubborn. It's not going to want to give up. It will use force against its people. I hope that doesn't happen, but from the record of history, it may take time, and there may be a lot of blood spilled.
Right. I mean, the situation's moving really fast, and developments in the region have moved really fast. Really, in many ways, these last 18 months, when you consider the downfall of Bashar al-Assad in Syria, the weakening of Hezbollah and the compromising that's been done of Israeli by the Israelis in particular of Iranian intel. I mean, Iran's regional clout looks like it's been really reduced, and I'm just wondering, do you see anyone coming to Iran's rescue in the event that it does come under attack?
Let's stipulate that the revolution in Syria started in 2011, and Assad was not overthrown until late 2025. I think that's sort of typical for demonstrations like this, for revolutions like this, when the dictatorial leadership refuses to leave peacefully. I don't think this regime is going to leave peacefully. I think they're prepared to kill huge numbers of Iranians before they leave. I hope I'm wrong about that.
One person we see quite a lot of, and he's quite visible on the US talk shows and on the political shows, is Reza Pahlavi, who is the son of the last Shah of Iran. He's calling on President Trump to intervene, and I'm wondering whether you think Washington views him as a realistic leader, perhaps only a transitional leader of Iran at this time.
I like Reza Pahlavi. I was impressed that when he called for demonstrations in certain areas of Iran, the people seemed to answer him. There will have to be a leader for the people to coalesce around once this fanatical regime falls. I don't know he is the person that most Iranians would go to. That will be their decision. But he has said the right thing so far. So I hope he's the right man to lead this country, because they will need leadership once the mullahs are out.
And just circling back to what you said at the very beginning, Mr. Fleitz, you said you wanted world leaders to call out Iran and to express their solidarity with the people of Iran and to do everything within their power to paraphrase, strike while the iron is hot. One of those people has been the German Chancellor, Friedrich Merz, and he says Iran's leadership is in its final days and weeks. Just to wrap up this conversation, would you concur with that assessment?
I'm not sure that we know that yet. I just say from history, we know that bringing down regimes like this is difficult and time-consuming. The revolution that led to the overthrow of the Shah took almost a year. I hope it moves faster than that. But I'll tell you, I was very glad to hear Merz say that, because European leaders were very slow in saying anything about this and standing with the brave Iranian people.
Okay, well, we really appreciate you taking the time to speak to us. Thank you very much indeed, Fred Fleitz, former Chief of Staff, US National Security Council under President Trump. Thank you for your time, sir.